crotchety old man next door harasses me to my breaking point. So I got my revenge, by user glowing_trash_panda. My crotchety old man of a neighbor has harassed multiple families out of this neighborhood over the years, had been trying to do the same to me for the first few years I lived here. Including calling the police for everything, like my grass being an inch too tall once. I've lived here for 9 years, and this is the story of how I finally got him to leave me alone a couple years ago. So my final straw was he put up a camera on his privacy fence on his deck that pointed directly into my backyard and refused to move it. He also threatened to shoot my dogs that never were outside alone and always either on a leash or in the backyard with me. Game on, bitch. I finally had enough. I proceeded to sign his address up for every possible spam mail/mailing list I could find: the Satanic Church, Mormons, Jehovah's Witnesses, Playboy, tons of other porn mags, and lots of other places that would scare an older religious couple, plus tons of other mailing lists. I spent like 5 hours just signing his address up for random mailing list shit. I then had one of those anonymous 5-pound boxes of elephant shit sent to his house, and I know it got there 'cause I was off work the day it got delivered. I feel bad that the poor mail lady had to have that in her truck for any amount of time in the middle of a heatwave in July in MO, but that was a sacrifice I was willing to make. I watched her carry it like it was a bomb to my neighbor's porch and practically throw it at their door. Stepped out into my carport to spy when my neighbor went to pick it up and heard their reaction. It was priceless. I then got crafty. Went to Wally World and picked up a little corrugated metal sign that was like 3 feet x 2 feet from the craft department, as well as some of those wooden letters, spray paint and construction glue. I proceeded to set up shop in my carport at like 11 at night, and that is only about 10 feet from his bedroom wall. All the houses are the same design on my street, so I know the master bedroom is on the wall closest to my house, and absolutely blast Avatar, a Swedish metal band that's awesome, at top volume with the speaker pointed at his house while crafting my little sign. I can see through the trees and between the houses to the next street over that you are required to take to get to my street, dead end street, and kept an eye out until I saw a cop car coming. Turned off my lights and music and went inside for like 20 minutes. The cop didn't even knock on my door 'cause when he got there was no noise complaint to act on, lol. After he left I got back to crafting and blasting music. I made a sign that said fuck off, and once all the spray painted letters and glue was dry I hung it from an old swing set frame and pointed it at his camera that was watching my backyard. And to deal with the camera, well, you wanna be a creepy fuck? Okay, I gotcha boo. I waited until like 1 AM the next night and then stripped down to nothing but my panties and stood in my backyard and stared at his camera for like 15 minutes straight in nothing but my undies. I don't think he enjoyed the view of my fat ass and tits, lol. The camera was taken down the next day. I haven't heard a peep from that fucker or gotten the cops called on me for nonsense since. Gave neighbor their yard waste back, by user concerned Coxetizen. A month ago my neighbor had their trees trimmed, giant spruces. A few days later I took my garbage out and noticed a 6-foot pile of brush against my back fence, from the ground to the top of my 6-foot fence, and bulging all the way to the road, huge branches and tons of pine needles. I texted her and asked what her disposal plans were, and she said she wanted to move it gradually. I said that was not okay and I wanted it gone ASAP. I texted her again 2 weeks ago and was not so polite, telling her my property was not free storage for her. She also uses a section against my house to store random crap. We've had unseasonably warm weather here in Canada until today, when it is now -20. So I went home for lunch, saw the pile still sitting and full of snow, and likely mice, and proceeded to throw it all onto her small parking pad where she keeps her garbage bins. Hopefully she moves it before it snows and freezes more. I'm now awaiting the irate texts. Update: no texts. She started chatting with me while we were both doing yard work. I told her I put the branches back on her property, and then she asked if she could use my green bin to help get rid of it because it will go faster. I said no, I keep my bin in my yard for when I pick up my dog's poop. That's it. Still entitled AF. She said if she sees my bin out and it's not full she'll put some brush in it. I told the guy to stop $dollaring around, by user and ROG. So this was in boot camp years ago. A nice enough guy was always messing with people to pass time. It was harmless, at first, sometimes funny but persistent, and always went too far in the end. One day he latches onto this black guy in my section. Nothing about his race, just his teeth, speech, walk, stuff like that. My guy laughed at first, then it wasn't funny anymore. He stays on my guy for about a week, relentless. I had enough and decided I would put this guy in his place, but had no plan. Long story short, it was dead of winter in Great Lakes, windows were open, fucking frigid, and got up in the night to go to the bathroom. I was walking back to my rack and it hit me. I got it. I filled me mouth full of water, quietly went to this guy's rack, and spit the water into his boots. I then repeated this like 4 times in each boot, went to bed. No one knew anything, dude. The next day this guy was freaking out about ice/slush/water in his boots. Company commander says to him, that's hilarious, and what you get for fucking with everyone endlessly, and you're lucky that's all that happened. Now go jog the grinder. He never said a word to anyone ever again. Mission accomplished. Edit, the windows weren't open. Our barracks were small warehouses, with near 100 people, so they cracked certain windows for airflow. Obviously the heat was running full blast, but it wasn't ducted, so there were deep disparities in temp based on your location inside, weather, etc. If the wind kicked up at night, it wasn't uncommon to wake up with frost on our wool blankets. Dude, ice would build up on the inside walls near the windows. That's just the winter weather there at times. I was digitizing a 15-year-old grad video and I deleted a bully from it, by using Trust. I had a bully in high school who made my life hell. 15 years later, I was digitizing a graduation VHS tape for a school reunion. I saw him in the video. So edited him out. No more him getting his diploma. I either completely cut or obscured with a dot. Now all he is a dot. It's a small thing, and I doubt they'll ever see it. But still. Edit for context. I was a bullied kid. It was high school and I started carrying around a calendar in my duffel bag. Instead of hours of work, I tracked every day I was told to kill myself by kids at school. It was so common that I wondered if it had become a new greeting. Maybe it's not normal to keep track of how many times people tell you to go kill yourself. But what else was I supposed to do? Not keeping track? I met Bob in class because he sort of had a bad reputation too, and I had worse. So I asked Bob if he wanted to hang out. He asked if I wanted to come back to his place and play Doom. I said yes. I went over there the first time, and we played Doom. Great game. It's fun. About a week goes by, he asks if he wants to come over again. I go over there the second time, we play Doom. Maps and mods. Great game. It's fun. About a week goes by, he asks if he wants to come over again. And I think I've just made a friend. I go over there the third time, and instead of playing Doom, he says he wants to talk. He says he'll show me his, if I'll show him mine. He said that he had felt some sort of connection to me from the very beginning. He's seen me scribbling in my book. I guess broken can sense broken? He wanted to show me his book. So he leans over from his computer, and in the little side drawer he pulls out this little black book and hands it to me. I turn it around and I open the first page, and it says, my hit list. There was a list of 20 students, and he wanted to know if there were some names that I wanted to add. For a moment I can't say I couldn't say a few. I could have named quite a few. But I didn't want them dead. We start talking, and I ask him, so this guy right here. Third from the top. Greg, a bully football guy. Should he have to die? Or is that more like a jellyfish in the face? A what? He asked. A jellyfish in the face. It'll sting a lot. I responded quickly. Well yet. Maybe. He began to think about it. And this second from the bottom. Does Nick have to die too, or is that more like a Nancy Kerrigan situation? I probed at him. What? He nervously said. A lead pipe before practice. Take his dreams away. Never gets to be a star. I guess. And I keep at it. I keep negotiating their freedoms. Making him think of bad things, instead of pushing forward with making the ultimate bad thing happen. I'm getting them into purgatory instead of hell. We were friends for about a year, and then he turned on me after he owed me money for doing his homework. Then we didn't talk for about 3 months. One day he told classmates and a teacher that I had a hit list. That I asked for his father's gun. And that I wanted to shoot up the school. This was his whole plan. And the worst part. They believed him. This son of a bitch gave me his dream, his identity, and I never wanted it. But now I had to carry it. I was pulled into the office, meeting with the principal. They wanted to know why I had a hit list. They wanted to know why I would want to kill people. I told them I didn't have one. I wasn't a snitch, but apparently Bob did it first, so I told them it was Bob. They didn't believe me. They loved Bob's mom who worked at a different school, so she couldn't have had a bad kid. So I pulled out my calendar and I gave it to them. It said bold letters, how many times I've been told to kill myself in the days there were little tally marks. Some had more than others. They looked at it for a long period of time, like I had done something wrong with it. Ultimately the calendar got me out of trouble with the principal. No police reports. They sent me to a counselor for a long-ass time though. We probably both should have gone. I'd like to say I got fewer death threats after that. I really would. That the fear of me would have created a shield to hold others at bay so I could have a moment to breathe. But they met perceived hostility with actual hostility. They could have killed it with kindness, but they'd rather try to kill me, drive me to suicide, like I was a pain pinata they wanted to pop. I just got better at living with hatred. There's 3 things I would say you could learn from this. 1. Be careful with your friends. 2. Be careful when you track time. People don't always understand the nuances. 3. You might end up in hell trying to save people from it. Eventually it came out it was Bob, but that was a long and horrible time for me. His lie outran the truth, and I don't know if the truth reached everyone. But yet, all these years, no apology. So if he becomes a dot, he becomes a dot. A period at the end of a sentence. Arborist destroys my property, I own his digital life, by Yuzuru Andy Techi. I live in Florida and Hurricane Milton, October 9th, was devastating for my community. During the storm, my neighbor's tree went down into my yard, destroying a fence and landing on my pool enclosure. There was damage, but it was limited. These things happen and that's why insurance exists, and I immediately submitted a claim. The community was without power, internet, and very limited cellular coverage in the following days, but work began restoring the community. My neighbor came over to my house on day 2 of the aftermath to apologize for the tree and inform me that they had hired a licensed and insured arborist. According to the neighbor, the arborist wanted to start on the top side of the tree which was currently in my yard, so he would be out the following day to meet with me and give me a quote. I thought this was great as it meant I didn't have to search for one myself. The following day, the arborist met with me, gave me a price, and I told him that before he starts work, I would have to check with my insurance to make sure he was covered. Not pleased with the delay, he told me that he was going to start on the neighbor's side. Growing up on a farm, having used chainsaws, I told him how bad of an idea this was. He shrugged and left my property, leaving his business card with the words insured, honest, creative, as well as what he lists as a license number. A few hours later, while my wife was outside cooking on a camp stove, day 3 of no power, the chainsaws begin. He makes a straight cut, I call him, yelling, saying I can already see the pool enclosure beginning to buckle. He continues. I tell my wife to get inside, and begin recording on my phone. The moment he moves the trunk of the tree, the side of the tree in my yard catapults. The majority of the pool enclosure collapses, the retaining wall breaks, the in-ground pool cracks, the roof buckles, and I am left with over $300,000 in damages to my backyard and home. Livid, I call him, both to say I told you so and also to demand his insurance information. He says he will email it to me immediately and it is available on his website, but with very limited internet, that was impossible. I tell him to airdrop it to me, turn on my airdrop, and wait. Text him, refresh the airdrop time. Call him. Text him. Nothing. He blocks my number. Something I noticed that evening when wireless data networks weren't as stressed is that the website on his card isn't active. I also note that his LLC is expired, he doesn't have a license, and therefore, cannot have insurance. He also got arrested in August of 2012 for beating his wife, driving away with the kid in the car, then abandoning the kid in the car so that he could purchase some crack cocaine. Suing him? No. He doesn't have the money to pay for any judgment and I am more interested in making sure no one else uses his services when the region is just trying to recover. I buy his domain. I buy the domain of his first and last name. I buy domains for variations of his business name. I buy the domain to his mother and father's, real estate agents, names. I build a website in 2 hours that details my glowing review of his character, his work, his arrest, his lack of business credentials and insurance, and the damage he did to my house which all 15 domains route to. Theoretically, he could get a new LLC, right? I thought of that. Aside from the entire rebrand effort he would have to do, branded truck, shirts, business cards, etc. I wrote a script that crawls the state corporate registration listing using his name and automatically purchases the domains and variations of any new corporation names he registers or is an agent/officer of. Over the past 2 months, over 700 locals have visited the site. My website is the #1 result on Google if you search for his business, his name, or his parents. He has stopped posting on his Facebook page and his phone line has been disconnected. Hopefully he has switched career paths. As for legalities, I don't want money for the domains, they are not for sale and were well worded to only speak to what occurred. TL, Drive, neighbors hired a crackhead arborist that does $300K and of damage to my house. I purchased the domain of his business, his name, his parents' names, and many more so that everyone is rooted to my glowing review of his services.